the electrome, this new field, really joins the genome and the microbiome. And just to, I've been thrown around this term, but just to say it again, in the early 2000s, there was a realization that we are about 40 trillion cells. And just in case there's scientists or doctors watching this, I want to acknowledge this number of the number of cells we are varies greatly. So I'm using 40 trillion for today. It's always agreed it's in the trillions, but whether it's how many tens is debatable. So 40 trillion cells. So is us. And yet, with the microbiome, what they discovered was that there are trillions more cells, fungi, even parasites that are not us, that are separate living organisms from us, that are living in our gut, and that we actually need. And we are just learning more and more about this. And they, for instance, Parkinson's, for a long time, Parkinson's disease was thought to be a neurological disease. Now they're beginning to look at the gut and thinking Parkinson's really starts in the gut. And what part does the microbiome play? So these systemic organizations are critical. And the newest organization is the Electrome. There was a scientist, he won the Nobel Prize in 1937 for the importance of citric acid, vitamin C in human health, Albert Szent-Györgyi. And he talked about there are 4 dimensions with which biologists must be concerned. And he's saying this in 1937. He's talking about the macroscopic, which is the anatomy, the bones and the organs, the microscopic, which is the cells, the molecular proteins, which really hadn't been discovered in 1937 in the sense of DNA, RNA, protein relationship and not being discovered. But he was already talking about that. And then what's even more amazing is he was talking about this submolecular or electronic organization, which needs to be studied. So, and then I love this Nikola Tesla quote. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And that is what electromagnetic frequency is. I mean, just by the name of it, it's energy, frequency, and vibration. So we are on the cusp of a new understanding of a part of what helps us to achieve health and to organize our bodies better, to self-heal and self-correct. So leading this research is researchers at Tufts University. And there's a PhD scientist, Michael Levin, and he stated, electrical dimensions of life can exert control over genes. So the electrome can influence the genome. Think about that. Genes can be influenced by electromagnetic frequency, providing a way to hack other systems we thought were too complex to precisely control. And then he goes on, this deeper understanding of bioelectricity will yield a bioelectric code. So we have a gene code, we are learning the microbiome code, and now we're starting on this new code. And the code is written in ions. So go back to the start of my presentation and the basic metabolic blood work panel. What do they measure? Ions. This is what he's talking about. Sodium, calcium, chloride, potassium. And the code is written in not only the ions, but the ion channels. And this is what it looks like. And so let me just see if I can just do that. Sorry. So this is a graphic representation of a cell wall. And so we have the outer and the inner wall of the cell. The blue color at the top, if you can see my cursor, is what's called the extracellular fluid. That's outside the cell. And inside the cell is where is this peach color. And basically the ions, what they do is in a resting state, the sodium accumulates on the outside of the cell. The potassium accumulates on the inside of the cell. Now, the potassium is slightly less, is a little more negatively charged, sorry, less negatively charged inside the cell. And so it's a minus 70 millivolts inside the cell relative to outside the cell. But that difference in electrical charge is important because this, what looks like a coffee bean, and that's a representation of an ion channel. When the ion channel receives chemicals that tell it to open, then we have an interchange of ions. The potassium runs out and the sodium flushes in. And that is actually generates the neural charge that tells the nerve cell to signal to the next nerve cell to the next cell. So this is what is actually, when we have a nerve impulse, this is what is happening trillions of times over across a single nerve chain. This is what is happening in cardiac muscle. This is what's happening to actually create just about every type of biological reaction in the body. It's the basic movement of these ions. And so they go from a resting state to an active state to a repolarization state. Now, the charge differential that is a big part of making this happen, it's negative 70 millivolts. Again, think about that. That's 1/1000th of the voltage in the battery of a common hearing aid. So again, when people say, I'm lying on this thing and I'm not really feeling it, well, yes, because what we're trying to influence is on a much more subtle level.